Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us for another podcast of Military to Mainstream. My name is Ricardo. I am your host and Marine Corps veteran who served from 2006 to 2017. Today, we have the honor of joining us, David Duré. He's also a Marine Corps veteran. He served from August of 2008 to August of 2009. I got that wrong, didn't I? 2012, I think it was.
05 to 09.
It was 05 to 09?
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah, we'll keep that in there. He reached the rank of sergeant or E5 in the Marine Corps, and he was a 6046 maintenance admin. So, David, welcome to the podcast. I knew I messed up those dates, but we're going to just roll with it.
Yeah, I don't think they do 1 year enlistments anymore. So
Long gone are those days, man. So, thank you for coming, man. Thank you for your service. Thank you for taking time out of your day to do this. I really appreciate it. I think we're going to be able to help a lot of veterans and military members transitioning out of the military. So I really appreciate your time.
Oh yeah, I appreciate you having me. It's an honor to be here, to speak for myself and to speak for all the veterans out there. Hopefully we can get them all on your podcast here in the future. So.
I mean, I got a busy schedule, but we'll try to get as many as we can in here. I've gotten a lot of support, which is cool. I appreciate it. And I'm realizing that there's not only so much time in the day. So yeah, thanks for being on here, man. So let's jump into it and let's give a little background. So you were in the Marine Corps, you're a maintenance admin. Can you share a little bit about your experiences in the Marine Corps and maybe if there was any impactful moments that you have that you still remember to this day?
Yeah, maintenance admin. It's for those who aren't familiar with it. It's pretty much logs and records. We track life limited components of whatever aircraft that your squadron supports, whether it be fixed wing or rotor wing. I was in a rotary wing squadron, and it seemed like the simple job, but it was a very important job. I went in at 17 years old, and when you're in the shop, you look at it and it's just like, oh, it's just logs and records, right? We're just recording time, recording hours. I didn't realize how important it was until flights were actually downed, and we couldn't, perform any flying activities due to certain components that weren't tracked the right way, and dangers brought upon to pilots and aircrew that are flying. Right, so didn't happen in my squadron, but I seen it done before, and that's when it really came to reality. Like, this is a very important job. Something serious, something to take serious. I learned a lot from that job. Again, going back to your question, as far as impactful things I've learned from there. I went in at 17. I was a young knucklehead, just like a lot of us were when we first went in. And I've learned the importance of taking things seriously. Camaraderie was another one, right? As we grow, teenagers, whatever case may be, young men and women, we have friends back at home. We do silly things. We grow out of it eventually. But to be 17 and being put in that position, you learn to grow fast, and you learn to mature fast. And I'd say that was one of my saving graces from being in the Marine Corps. So it's definitely one of the big ticket items I took from being in the service.
Yeah, definitely. I think we go in as young men and we leave as men, and young women and women. We just don't really know the impact that we can make on it. And especially with those logbooks, you think it's not as important, right? But then you're seeing that just like a car needs an oil change every 3,000, 5,000 miles, these aircraft, they have maintenance that need to be upkept because these components only last so long. So it's a big responsibility. You probably didn't see it right away going in at 17, but as you progressed, you're able to see the importance of your job. And I'm sure you were taking it seriously from the beginning, but as you got older and you started to have Marines underneath you, you started to tell them the importance of the job that you do, because we're all cogs in this wheel to this big thing that you call the Marine Corps. And so super happy to have worked with you, because you were telling us what needed to come off and what could stay on, and work with us to make these aircraft fly, and it was pretty cool.
Yep.
So like when you were starting your transition out of the Marine Corps into the civilian sector, can you touch on what did you think? What were expectations? What were you told it was going to be like? And then what did you encounter that it was really like when you were getting out? And did you feel like you were fully prepared to take on that transition?
So I would say there was we all go through taps and TAMS class, and they prepare us. They say they prepare us for the worst. Everybody's situation is different. I remember getting out. I kind of just I use tap and TAMS as a Bible, right? Like everything they said would happen, I expected to, and that wasn't the case, right? When I was in, I had my first child in 2009, the year I got out, and I for one wanted to stay in the Marine Corps, become a lifer in there. But I had gotten sick, unfortunately, and I kind of had no choice but to get out after that issue had arisen. So, I got out with a wife and a child, and it was very nerve wracking. Trying to find employment. At that point, you're just kind of relying on the post 9/11, GI Bill to help you keep afloat. Um, obviously, you have to be in college full time, to get that benefit. So that was a majority of the first 3 years, out. But my wife was in school, full time as well, and it the the turn of events that happened after the Marine Corps, it wasn't expected. I will say that. Everybody has this plan for life, and how they want it to go, and it just never goes the way you want it to. And that's how it was, life after the Marine Corps. But it worked out. Everything worked out. The transition was hard. I will say that a lot of people look at you differently, especially when you're going to college, fresh out the Marine Corps at 21, and you're in school with a bunch of 17, 18-year-olds. You kind of stick out like a sore thumb. It's hard to get acquainted with people, and not only the young people in college, but just people in general. I think we have a different mindset in the military that a lot of people can't comprehend after you get out. So I leaned on the shoulders of my fellow veteran brothers and sisters heavily after getting out. They were understanding and cognizant of all of our backgrounds put together, and why we are the way we are, and where we want to go. And that was a huge help during my transition. I will say that.
Yeah, I think leaning on the veteran community, I believe, I know for me at least, I didn't really dive into that as much as like probably we should have or I should have. And as I progressed my years outside of the Marine Corps, um, I just realized how important that is because, like you said, like they understand like what we're going through. They're able to relate what we're going through, and there's a better connection. Even if you didn't serve directly with them, you both kind of know what the culture was like, what the mindset was like, and it is different from your everyday civilian. And just the experiences put you in a different group, a different class of individuals that you can relate to. Um, you said it
Correct.
wasn't what you expected, right? What was the biggest thing that shocked you that wasn't expected when you transitioned out of the military?
I would say uh, getting into the workforce afterwards, after finishing my degree. I had gotten my first degree in elementary education, and I had taught at an elementary school in fifth grade, and in the Marine Corps, you're just you're hard on your peers, you're hard on yourself. I think it's just a mindset and mentality that yeah, that I'm sure you're very well familiar with, right? I'd say the biggest, or I'd say the weirdest experience I had was dealing with young kids and learning during a time and age where discipline is frowned upon. You can't be a disciplinary in elementary schools. You can't do that, nowadays. So It was, one thing I did in my elementary schools was I try to teach my young kids to be leaders and not followers. And by doing so, I had a very unorthodox way teaching these kids how to be leaders, and it was frowned upon. Um, I had my kids marching. I had my kids, singing off cadences,
Fifth graders.
building discipline. Yeah, fifth graders, right? Fifth graders. Hey, they loved it, but it was frowned upon doing so, and I would say one of my class was probably one of the most disciplined classes in the school. However, my actions to getting them disciplined was frowned upon. So I would say that was, everybody says, oh, we want a veteran employer. We want to support our veterans, this, that, and the third. And the moment you're a veteran in a civilian workplace, everybody's running for cover, right? So they, you know, it was. I wouldn't say it was a horrible experience teaching. I definitely enjoyed teaching. My kids love me. Even kids that were outside of my classroom, they enjoyed running into me, coming to my classroom whenever they could. It's just the other teachers who were, kind of skeptical about my teaching style and who I was and who I am, should I say? Because nothing's really changed much from after I gotten out. So yeah, that was a weird transition period after being out because I only taught for 1 year and then I went back to school. So yeah, it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but hey.
Yeah, that's interesting that people do have this idea of wanting to hire veterans and support veterans because they know that there's discipline there, right? Like they probably see it in
Yeah,
movies, they hear about it on the news, um, heard it from a brother, sister's uncle's cousin. But when you're working hand in hand with a veteran who's actually implementing the disciplinary tools that they learned, people are like, oh wait, like no, like I didn't sign up for this. And it's not that you're being hard on people, it's just that you're being detail oriented and you're 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 keeping to the task and you're keeping organized and like you have a mind that's focused on mission accomplishment, right? And it's dealing with fifth
correct.
graders, so it's about getting them their education. And I love how you said, making them leaders because they're the next generation that's going to be taking over this country. But when you're actually in the trenches doing it and it's not the norm, it's not what these other you know educators have been used to. You say your class was the most disciplined class, and I'm pretty sure your kids love it because kids love discipline. Like, don't go hard on them, but there's a soft discipline that kids love, and you were able to implement that. And it's interesting that the society around you who doesn't know about the military wasn't able to experience that, kind of frowned on you about it. So did that
Yeah.
kind of guide you out of teaching once you kind of had that experience for that year?
It did. And again, it wasn't the kids. It was more so just, certain administration, faculty and staff who, I guess, I don't blame them. Maybe they were just not used to that type of teaching style. It was effective. I mean, I didn't have the highest scores in the school, but I showed the most growth within a classroom when it came to grades. I think that speaks volume, right? My kids, they started out rough. The program I graduated from in college was it was a program to put males and minorities in low income, high poverty neighborhoods. So that's just to give you an idea of the type of kids that I had to teach every day. So I enjoyed watching them transition. Right, we're doing a podcast on transitioning. Their transition was lovely to watch them grow. Within those 10 months of teaching. But policies are policies, right? And I don't make them; I follow them. And with the education policies that are put forth, it's tough being a Marine in the classroom teaching. I will say that. As a matter of fact, after I left, uh, the old principal or my first principal that I had when I was teaching left, and a Marine principal came down from Jacksonville, Florida, found out that I was leaving, what was going on, and he wanted to hire me back ASAP. put the offer on the table right then and there. And I wanted to do it so bad, but by then I had already accepted a scholarship for mechanical engineering. So, um, it was bittersweet. As a family grew, the finances did as well. I went into something that I not only love, as far as teaching, I loved it, but at the time when I was teaching, it was the salary wasn't where I had needed to be for my family. So I had went into engineering, and I was hoping for something a little more lucrative in a sense, to help support the needs of my family. So yeah, it was bittersweet. I did really want to teach, but I had to move forward. So.
Yeah, so that's great. You've had you were an educator for a year, and then we were talking. You were just sharing that you went into engineering for the Department of the Navy, right? And you've kind of segued from that, and now you're running a cabinet business, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I haven't necessarily left the Department of the Navy just yet. I'm focusing on building my cabinet business. It's something very new to me. I linked up with a couple of industry partners, and we're at where we're at right now with the cabinet business. It's in the beginning phases still. It should be operational starting next month, hopefully. I do what I love. I do love what I do with the Department of the Navy. I get to work with Marines now again. Just as a civilian. So I don't want to let that go yet. That's I hold that near and dear. I truly enjoy going back to our roots, right? And seeing how the Marine Corps has evolved, and getting to link up with brothers and sisters from the past. So.
Yeah, I love working with Marines. I don't want to be an active duty Marine anymore, but I do love working with them and still experiencing that because you're still able to impact the next generation because they're gonna look up to you with whether it's good or bad, they're gonna get something from you and we can share with them. So that's great that you're still doing that. You talked earlier about you were using your GI Bill when you got out and it kind of helps supplement finances, which I think is a beautiful thing to use. Have you leveraged any of the other veteran benefits to you, like your VA disability or your VA loan?
Yes, I am rated, should I say? So going back to when I talked about getting hurt in the military, ended up getting a heart condition that I still deal with, nowadays, to present day. So I do, use my disability benefits and other benefits that come with being a disabled veteran. My VA loan, I relied heavily on that about twice already for my properties. Love the VA loan. I believe if you're 10%, they waive the funding fee whenever you get your loan. So that's wonderful. Very low startup costs. And again, as a teacher, my wife being a first year nurse, it was helpful to say the least. So we it's funny, you read around, there's so many benefits from the VA that a lot of veterans are not aware of. Um, I'm what 14 years out in the Marine Corps, and I'm still learning about new things and new benefits that the VA offers. So we utilize what we can. You figured you serve your time, right, and you gave a couple of years or most of your life to this country. Why not reap the benefits of doing so?
Exactly. Well said. I share that with every veteran and everyone who's in the military that go to medical, get looked at because you deserve it. Did you run into any obstacles when you were dealing with your VA disability or with the VA currently, or has it been a pretty smooth process for you?
It was a rough process, a very rough process, and I just want to echo a statement that you literally just said earlier. Um, it was a rough process for me because of documentation from active duty. Um, I hope this video gets out of here to many veterans, and if there's one tidbit of information that you take and you click on this podcast, it's document, document, document. We have, especially as Marines, and I can't speak for all the other branches, um, we have this persona that we have. Well, I don't want to call it persona because it is who we are, right? But we have to be hard all the time, right? We have to be, forged from steel. We have to be America's 911, and we can't afford to be hurt. We can't afford to be ill. Um, when I got out, right before I got out with my heart condition, I was on light duty for 6 months prior to my EAS. And what sucked about it was I beat myself up a lot, right? Because I'm sitting there like, I'm a Marine. Why am I on light duty? I should be this, I should be that, and I should be a third. It's okay if you're hurt. It's okay if you need that medical help. You may think that your peers are looking down on you because you're hurt. You may think that they look at you as you know um, not participating, not putting in your part uh, for the team. If you're hurt, you're hurt. And a lot of Marines, they don't want to go to sick call because they don't want that label. They don't want that um, the thought of their peers looking down on them because they're hurt, or what do we call them, Rico? Broke body, right? Um,
Malingerers, yeah.
well, yeah, right. You don't want to be that. So a lot of Marines, I hope I hope that you go to sick call, you go to medical, you document what's wrong with you. Don't ever hide anything. It may be a point in time where people may look at you differently while you're active duty because you may always be down and out, but it'll benefit you in the long run if you document. Because when you're trying to do that VA claim later and you have nothing to show for it, it's a pain. I just ran into a 66-year-old veteran who just started experiencing night sweats, nightmares, and everything. Got diagnosed with PTSD at 66. He was out the service for over 28 years, I believe, and he had just gotten it. And now he's working with the VA, and it's hard to get that claim because he had nothing documented. Granted, it's just, some people it hits sooner, some people it hits later. It hit him later, but he's going through the process right now, and it sucks to see him go through that process. So, um, document, document, document. If you can take anything from that, and just set yourself up for the worst in the event anything medically happens to you during your 4 years or 20 years or your 20 plus years. So,
Yeah, it really. I mean, thank you for reinforcing that because I'm like a broken record with that. Like, go to medical, get everything documented because you deserve it. Like, and it's gonna only help you in the long run when you're trying to get that disability rating because that thing's gonna help you more than you realize. And you talk about with the VA loan being 10% or more and getting your funding fee waived. If you're buying a house in San Diego, that's 2.5% of a $800,000 home. You're saving like $16,000, $17,000 out of your pocket that you don't have to save because you served your country and you deserve it. So definitely something to keep doing and documenting when you're getting hurt and getting injured. So you said you used your VA loan twice. Is that right?
correct. Yes. My first home I bought, it was in Lakeland, Florida, and it was our starter home. It was just my wife and I, and we had just had our second child, and we were renting from 2009 to 2013. And in 2013, we decided to purchase a home, and we used our VA loan. And I want to say we probably only came out of pocket $1,000. I mean, literally, the earnest money was our down payment.
Yeah.
Again, for a first year teacher or first year nurse, that $1,000 went a long way. And it was wonderful. The second time we used our VA loan, we sold our home to move into our second home, which is now our rental property. Um, we came out of pocket $2,100 for that one. It's oh man,
Doesn't
it's a
get any
game changer.
better
And,
than
and
that. Like,
No, oh, no, it doesn't. Not at all. Not at all. We have another home now, and I couldn't take out the VA loan for the third loan. And I can't tell you how much money I came out of pocket for that conventional loan. If only I could have gotten this one on a VA loan, right? So it's yes, please use your VA loan, especially if you qualify for it. It is a life changer, especially when it comes to finances. I mean, I don't see why you would want to come out thousands and thousands of dollars when there's literally benefits right there in front of you that prevent you from having to do so.
Hey, well, if you want to use your VA loan again, if that property that's a rental has been a rental for more than like 2 years, you can refinance it. That I'm sure you have equity in it because of how crazy the market's been. You'll be able to cover the equity spread they need, and then you'll clear up your entitlement, and you can go on to buy another property, and you can just be this massive real estate mogul off the VA loan. Definitely, definitely possible.
See, again, see, you learn something every day from veterans, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I know for my last home I bought, I got paid $200, and that's because I'm a real estate
Wow,
broker, so I use my commission to cover the closing costs, and then I'm disabled as well, no funding fee, and then no down payment. So I got all my earnest money back and a little bit on top of that, and I was just smiling like,
nice.
like this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. Um, So, what do you got going on for the future? So, I know you're doing a cabinet business. You're working on that. Like, what big goals do you have? Like, what aspirations do you have? Like, what's next for you?
What is next for me? Well, right now, I'm trying to take baby steps. The business Pie Cabinets now, that's our company. It'll be up and running within the next month or two. I'm looking forward to just building that up in baby steps. And I'm actually, I was soul searching. And as much as I love my job or my career, I don't call it a job. It's my career. I love it. Eventually, I would like to veer away and become a small business owner and work for myself. And right now, I love teaching. I know I can't go back to teaching. I love engineering. I am planning on opening up a STEM daycare here in the near future. So I am very excited about that. That's the details are in the works right now. That's years from now. But my goal is definitely to open up a STEM-based daycare where kids are still learning early literacy, but it'll be one of its kind in the area. And that's pretty much it right now. I'm just taking things a step at a time, not trying to rush into anything too fast. Just kind of enjoying myself right now.
That's great. That's You're going to give a lot of kids a lot of education. So, for active duty members who are in the process of transitioning or transitioning soon, what advice would you give them? And then for those veterans who have already made the transition and maybe they don't have their feet underneath them yet, what words of encouragement can you share with them?
Well, first and foremost, document everything when you're in the military. We talked about that, and I can't emphasize it anymore. That's the most important thing. Number two, get with local veteran groups in your area. I have, I guess, if you want to call it a beef with all veterans, right? I think as of lately, the brotherhood is dwindling down, and I don't like what I'm seeing. I feel like veterans are starting to veer away from fellow veterans. Um, they're not looking. They're not looking at us for a shoulder to lean on or somebody to talk to. And I think they all need to understand that we're here. If you need someone to talk to or shoulder to lean on, we are here for you. Um, do not run away. We know what you've been through. We've been through it as well. You are no different than us. Um, please, please, talk to us, reach out to us. We just had a local Marine group here that, I didn't know, of the Marine Corps presence in the area, but, we have a little group and some of them we've served with, in the past. And I'm happy to have that. Um, you look at fraternities and things like that in college, and they have such a close brotherhood and sisterhood. They still talk to each other. they still help each other obtain careers in the workforce. They still help them with obtaining resources. I get jealous of that. I really do, because I think we don't get that as often in the veteran pool. And it's disheartening that we're not going about it the way that we should, which is relying on each other and helping us, helping each other out with resources and so on and so forth. So if you've transitioned already, uh, find or start a local veteran group. If you're about to get out of active duty, join that veteran group in your area. It would be beneficial to you. We're not only veterans, but we're professionals, right? We're entrepreneurs. We're all of the above, and you'll be surprised what resources we have to help with your transition, or those who are in a pickle right now who's already transitioned and they're looking for a smoother process, so to speak. So just speak up, look out for us. We're here. We're everywhere. We're everywhere, literally everywhere. So.
Yeah, I love that advice you just gave. I'm guilty myself, right? Because I have beef with veterans too. Sometimes they get on my nerves because of how they act, and it's like, hey, grow up a little bit. But um, I'm learning more and more as I get out how much they are there for us. And I know for me, if any veteran, especially someone I serve with, would reach out to me, I'm going to help them. And for some reason in my head, I couldn't make that switch that it was going to be reciprocated for me. And, I still had that Marine mindset of like, I got this on my own. I can do this. I can push through. And it's about being vulnerable and like sharing with people, with veterans who've been through the same experiences as you, and lean on them. And I think that last part for veterans who have already transitioned to get back into that community and lean on them is so clutch. And I'm so happy you hit on that. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to this at all?
I feel like there's so much. It's so much. Just you know what? Be there for your fellow veterans. Yeah, you can join the organizations and create the organizations, but when there's a veteran in need, be there for them. That's probably one of the greatest resources um, out of the VA, disability, the home loans, everything. To have a veteran to talk to and be there for is probably one of the greatest rewards of the transitioning process. So please keep an open eye, open ear for your fellow veterans. And I I can't think of anything else. That's probably the most important one.
No, I think that's a real good one. Real good one. Hey, David. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming and sharing all the thoughts you had and all the stuff you wanted to share. I think you hit some great points, and it's going to really help some people. If you've made it this far to the end of this podcast, or if you're watching, if you have any feedback you'd like to give, any comments you want to make, or you know anybody who would like to come and share their story, please feel free to drop it in the comments below. If you think this can help anybody, please share it with them. We're just trying to get the word out, help people with the transitioning. Again, my name is Ricardo, your host of Military to Mainstream. Take it easy.